Hi, hello, this is Pigsy. I'm going to have to show a sort of tutorial on crypto at my desktop, but I'll probably cover some in a little talk here as well, because people do ask, how do I get into it? And I do have people, you're going to have to show me, and you think, well, okay. No, I don't mind doing that, but like my brother might say, well, you have to show me how you've done that. And I'm thinking, the opportunity is here and now if you want it. It's more that some people are on that fence before they make a decision if they want to try it out, and obviously they don't want to lose money, and it's a bit complicated. So what is crypto? And I was thinking, how do you explain it? Well, we explain it to different countries. So each of these different countries' currency, because currency is like electric, yeah. So the currency for each country is on its own blockchain. Imagine that. So the chain, in this sense, is the currency. Chain and currency, the same thing. Okay, but it's a bit more complicated than that. But it gives you a model, and so things that are built on this particular currency or blockchain will be tokenized money. So if you think of, for an example, with say the British pound sterling, what I come across there is that you have different like 2p, 1p, 5p's notes, and if you can imagine that, it's all crazy, isn't it? Crazy, right? And if you can imagine that all these different notes are different types of tokens, which they are really, they're transmutable though within our fiat currency. Fiat is what we call this sort of debt-based currency that because it's like promissory notes type things. That's how it started. It's IOU type thing from the government, and it just become paper money, and they say, right, well, this is worth this much. And if there's any problem or dispute, we could basically settle it. Basically, we've got the assets to do that. And so going back to focusing on what the blockchain. So you've got these different assets that are created on the same currency or chain. So that's because they're different. Each chain's different. So you've got Ethereum, for example. So originally the Bitcoin came out, and it was a way to. It was basically something that was created that couldn't be where you couldn't. It had a ledger to it, and so it was not corruptible in the same way as that human money can be. Because I could turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I paid you that," but if you send it via a ledger, it will show where it went. And so you can't say, well, actually, it is paid, because I've had that in the past where someone at a till said, I've given you £20. I looked at the till and said, well, you couldn't have given me £20, there's only £10 in it. It's like, oh. So then it's sort of like, it's just trying to rip me off, basically. So you get, it's human nature is that we take advantage of situations to benefit ourselves. And whether that's ethical or moral depends on the situation. We might think, well, we've been shorted in some way of something we deserve, so we should have our money back. So, so things are built on this currency that represent things of value. Now, so if I take some money and say if I take some British pounds and I go to Russia, they say, well, we don't accept that. That's not our currency. And so what you need to do is convert that. And so what they often do is that they have something whereby it's transmutable across the chain. So what it ends up being is what they call wrapped. Might get complicated here. So it basically, it's a kind of a guarantee that this thing is worth the same amount it is for the different, so for my example, for different currency. It's like a pound or whatever. It's worth £1, but it's going to be wrapped in the equivalent of in Russian currency, or it'd be accepted. There's like a rule saying whether that is accepted. But from a programming point of view, is that it's been encoded so it's acceptable on that chain. And in this case, it's like being agreed that it can be used for this exchange if it's wrapped. So it now is allowed to be used. A bit like US dollars. I mean, in other countries, if they accept that can be transferred across, like if we only accept oil in US dollars, that's fine. But we want a way in which we can say that these US dollars belong to us, so we have the serial codes to them, or whatever, however you want to see it. And so there's what you call a wrapping, and so that happens when somebody wants to transfer between the currencies or the chains, and that's called bridging. You bridge it. So in the same way exchange, I give them money. Well, that's something else, liquidity pool. So you can exchange money for the same type of currency. So if I wanted to change a note into a pound coins, that kind of exchange. So that can be done on the set exchanges for the different tokens that they run on. So there's usually a native chain token, which I've touched upon that. So Bitcoin come out, and it was an immutable chain in that you can add things to it, but you couldn't remove what's already happened with it. And then it was because it couldn't be altered, the value of it, it was set up to have X amount of it, and because of the scarcity, the price increased on it. And it was a way to use as a ledger, and it was because it was the original when it came out. It was given a value, and because of that, it's like technology, it's seen as, and because it's like it's ethereal in a sense. If in a metaverse, it's not a physical technology, it's like a programmed technology, and so it exists in its really basic state, and so it's not really that usable. But because of that element to it, it becomes like an element in the metaverse, because it's the first construction of this type of technology in this format, and then it was held under a contract. So the contract agreement within the programming is that it's a certain amount of Bitcoin can be produced, and it's a complicated way of mining it. It takes a lot of computing power, like having all these different square roots and everything else going on. This encoded, encrypted information is held to this one particular coin. So I guess the code was simpler, or either that it was just always complicated. So one of these coins could be like 10000, and then it'd be like 2000, and there'd be to whatever amount of zeros is required, depending on how many coins you're going to have, and that would be sort of the language for it. Like this is serial encoding. And so there's only so many possibilities, which is why there's only so many coins to be produced. And it's written into the code, it says there can only be such and such amount of these coins. So it's a bit like having gold bars and saying, right, when actually the rule in this country is we can only have a set amount of gold bars out. And suddenly all these gold bars in this country become very valuable. But if there was loads of those gold bars, and then they said, right, we're going to put all these into the population to use, you can have infinite amount of them, then the value of it would change. And that's what happens with scarcity and liquidity, the availability of it through pools. So there's some basics about it. And so this language and program is put into this kind of thing. It's built on with a set value, it's immutable, it's basically checked by multiple computers, so it can be cross-referenced. So I can't just produce it, because if we take art, and if before we get into the NFTs, if we take art, I could copy any picture on Google and I could use it, but so I'd be infringement of copyright. And anyways, copyright is because someone's filed it somewhere in a centralized way to say this is my image and you have to pay me royalties and stuff. So it's set up in a contract, which is no different than where some of these cryptocurrencies go and set on contracts. And it's a way to basically sign in a particular way a photograph and produce it in a way that it's on a chain, so it's connected to this chain, a bit like I mentioned about, because the chain is based on language, and pixelated information can be put into a language, and therefore the structure of it, the block of data, can be encoded further still to say, on this AVEX chain, this particular item, there's only 10 of them, and they've got the value of this and this. You know, they all can be set up on there. So it's almost like having the receipt and set up in the ledger against the media format. So it could be music, it could be art, it could be all sorts of things. It could be video, and it has a set value basically, which the artist can decide, and also the market decides, because people buy it at a set level, and then someone's willing to pay more for it, and so it goes up in value. So it's this scarcity model of things going up in value, and it's also what we call the tokenization of it, and they're called non-fungible tokens because they've been create a certain amount, and you know, somebody could create more, but then I guess they would be in violation of what they created, or there'll be subtle differences, and someone will say, well, that's the copy of this data. Because I could take an image and I could produce my own artwork basically and say that's mine, and it's not. But because of the ledger and the transaction ledger, it could say the artist sold it, and so it's traceable. And so somebody could say, well, I'm not paying for that. And it would be very strange to take someone to court to sue them over something on the blockchain. But basically, with cryptocurrency, it's the next phase of the internet of being it, of currency and finance moving into it. Because it was about freedom of information, it was about expansion of understanding, and it was about networking. Basically, it grew so quickly because the governments didn't think it would go anywhere, and it just took off massively. And then it became very advantageous for the governments. They gave them access to information they wouldn't normally have about people, like Facebook and all these other things. And then it started selling data, which creates the industry for data. And now you can say, well, actually, we could create something in data that is measured and can't be altered and changed, and is encoded and encrypted, and it basically produced this model for money, tokenization. And so it's no different than what's happened to banks, that I'm transferring numbers to buy things into one account to the next, and so it's just building on that type of technology. And so so I need to tell you, so you've got different chains, different currencies. You can change them across different currencies or blockchains, but it uses technology to do that. So you're going to have to go to exchange, and what they can do in exchange is basically you transfer your money there, and they give you back the equivalent. So it's the same as the travel exchange thing, basically, into a different currency. So if I swap in pounds to dollars or whatever, I'd go in there, but it has to be wrapped because I'm sending it from one country. It's like a language, and it has to be basically it has to be translated. This data, yes, it validates it is this, great, now send him the same amount of stuff but on the chain he wanted. And so there's different chains. So Ethereum was the next level. So we had Bitcoin, and it was a slow technology, and somebody said we don't start building all this technology around it, like, you know, if you can add to the contract, like tax it, or you could send a receipt to somebody else if they pay for something, and all sorts of things we built into the contract. It's encoded, it's just like a little program of information. And so Ethereum was created, and it was a programmable asset, so it's stuff like non-fungible tokens and all the extra information that could be added to it. So that built out into Ethereum, but the problem with Ethereum is it used so much computing power, and they needed a way to measure it. So they're using people to validate the transactions, and proof of staking, I think, or something they call it. And basically, because there's a slow connection and transfer of these different because as it just becomes so popular so quickly, it become expensive, and so they were looking for what they call scaling solutions, so a solution to make it cheaper, so it could be computed quicker. And what happened is they started to people started to experiment, and these different chains turned up because they used sort of variations of the original code. Unlike a copyright, if someone creates something in this crypto sphere, I guess, people can copy that code and use it, and that's why people started producing their own coins. That's what happened later on with Binance. There's a quick way of creating it, and so basically they're all similar, but just got a bit more changed, a bit of code in, and they say this belongs to me, and this is the value of this, and but it still needs to have it needs to have a need. It needs to have people to want to buy it. I always think what a value. It's like coal or something, If I don't want it, I could get it for free. I could just go somewhere and find some coal somewhere. But if I want it and I go to a shop, I need to buy it. But equally, I could create a coin, send loads to my own wallet, and basically it's got no value at all. I've got some coins in my wallet, there's no value. And so wallets are a set of keys that give you access. So with the same sort of coding, a bit like the bank, the credit card is all is encoded to my account, but the money exists in the vault. It exists in the bank or on the chain. And so the ledger says from my wallet that he has the equivalent of value of this amount of tokens. And so the money isn't really in my wallet, it's in the network. It's just saying validate. It's a bit like Facebook. It's not in your actual phone. You can have stuff in your app, but it's actually on the server. So an encrypted wallet has a seed phrase. Seed phrases are the code by which a wallet exists. It's a bit like they started doing seed phrases for locations, so you'd have like 3 words and that would lead you straight to your location, because they said that's a better way of figuring out a postcode or something, because everyone has a shared postcode, but they're not going to have like greedy crab pate or something like that. That makes too much sense, doesn't it? Or something, it could be anything. It could be a colour, it could be any type of word they can mix together. They don't have to make sense. And this gives it quite a unique reference. And so the seed phrase gives you a unique reference. And a seed phrase is something you need to keep safe in a hard copy, because unlikely you can remember it, and the order is important. And what happens if something happened, like, say you dropped your computer in the bath, or something nutty happened to it, or it went down, it stopped working, and you didn't have any other access to your wallet, then you can't get your thing back, because you are the only person you own your own bank, so you own your own wallet, you have your own access keys to this money that's in the metaverse, and it's using your seed phrase. That's sort of your level 1, so that's the location. The seed phrase gives you that kind of location. But once you've got your seed phrase, you can put it on multiple devices. And you can also, so I've got a Trust wallet, and I've set up, because different browsers, like with currency, different chains, different browsers operate different programs. So I can set up 2 different wallets on 2 different browsers. So I've got 2 MetaMask, and so the MetaMask can be an add-on. So if you didn't have an iPhone, you didn't have an Android, right? Because Trust Wallet is one of the wallets out there, and it's a multi-chain wallet, which makes it easier, because it means I can buy directly from the app what I want and have it stored in my wallet. But I can use the seed phrase from the Trust Wallet. I go on to MetaMask, which is just an add-on to my browser. It can also be an app, and then I set my seed phrase So import the seed phrase, and it gives me access on my laptop to my wallet, because I might be using it for a game or a program or something that has to use the cryptocurrency I can connect to. It just might be better visually than trying to do it on my phone. So that kind of gives you a taster of it. I'd have to actually physically show you to give you some insight into that, and also trying to make sense of what it is. So basically it's a valued system of money that can be put into cyberspace. And the thing is, because it's international and there's no middlemen, taxes can be all different, everything, depending on what the coin is and the project, and the amount of people put into things. People have just got loads of money, and what happens is a token, somebody starts, say 20,000 people start buying it, and it starts shooting up in value because there might be a limited amount of tokens and everybody wants one. And so the price skyrockets based on the market demand, and that's why it can go through the roof. And then you just transfer it into something more stable, and then you can do what you want. You can cash it back into your bank, or you can keep it on in your wallet. Anyway, this is Piggy's little bit of insight into crypto, and I will speak to you soon. Right, bye.